There's a single reason why most people stay broke and most businesses stay small. So I've been in business for 14 years, out of portfolio companies, acquisition.com, that last year did over $250 million in aggregate revenue. And the number one excuse that I hear from entrepreneurs about why they haven't grown is that their market is saturated. It's too small. There's so many people. It's super competitive. It's red ocean. Everyone has these different terms. Like, I don't want to start this thing because there's so many people doing it. Here's what's insane. 99% of people who say this are completely wrong. And so unless you're selling to 140 people in a rural town in the middle of nowhere, your market is probably 100 or 1,000 times bigger than you think. And the average entrepreneur has tapped into less than 1% of the actual market. And so there is a massive gap between how you see your market, how you perceive your market, and how big it actually is. Once you figure that out, you'll realize you've been looking at your business through a keyhole, when there's actually a massive door in front of you that you can open up and see what it truly is. And so what I'm about to tell you will completely change how you see your business's potential, its total addressable market, and you'll see why it's actually good to go into saturated markets, why red oceans could actually be an amazing opportunity for you. And it starts with understanding why this limiting belief exist to begin with. For the most part, in my opinion, is that people want to protect their egos. They say that their market is too small, and that's the reason they haven't been able to scale. I can't scale my ads past $1,000 a day because I think I've saturated my market. No, bro, you haven't saturated your market. You haven't saturated Facebook. Your ads suck. You don't know different levels of awareness. You only know how to advertise to an avatar that understands the solution and product that you're selling. As soon as you get above that, there's a much larger market above that that could actually buy your stuff, but because you don't know how to advertise, you're unable to reach it. And rather than say, I do not know how to advertise in a way that gets more leads, I do not know how to scale, instead you say, the market is too small. Real. Now, I want to be clear here. If you have a local business, it is possible, like my 140 person example, it is possible that you're in a market that literally, there's 140 people in your market and you're in the middle of the Sahara Desert. Yeah, it's probably not going to work. But most of the time, even in local markets, if you're in like an A market, or A market or B market, there's 1 million people in your city, there's 400,000 people in your city. If you need 200 to make business work, you are fine. There's other things that are holding you back. If you're in basically any other industry, which you can look up from like Google industry revenue, the likelihood that you have tapped your market, it's almost impossible. And the thing is that it is still one of the most commonly stated things and least commonly true. And so I'll tell you a quick story about this, and then I want to show you a really powerful visual. When I had Gym Launch, I wanted to start doing outbound. Rather, I didn't want to start doing outbound. I was convinced to do outbound because of the story I'm about to tell you. So I had a conversation with a guy who was a lead sales rep. We were recruiting him in. And I asked him how they currently get leads at his company. And he was actually in the gym business. I didn't find this out until I got into the interview. And he was selling gym software. I asked him how much they were doing a month. And they were doing 10 million a month. And I was like, holy cannoli, I've never even heard of this business. And I said, okay, well then how are you getting all your leads? He said, oh, we just do outbound. And I was like, that's insane. I didn't know outbound could generate that kind of demand. But here was this company that I'd never heard of that at the time was doing 5 times more revenue than I was doing, and it broke a belief for me. So let me give you this visual that I think is super powerful for understanding this. So let's imagine that this is 100% of the pie. This is the entirety of the market, right? So if you had 100% access to the market, you'd be super happy. Now, this is what happens in people's minds when a competitor comes in. So you say, oh my God, there's them and there's me. Oh, I guess I will be medium happy about this situation. And then let's say you have 2 more competitors that come in. Now you're very sad because you're like, wait, I used to have this whole pie. Now I only have a quarter of the pie. This is false. This belief set will keep you poor, or at least poorer than you would otherwise be if you adopted a different perspective. So you currently advertise in one way, using one specific platform and one specific medium on that platform. And so this little red slice of pie here, right? What is it in actuality? Well, let me show you. This is what that little slice of pie looks like.